we'll just talk briefly about PTSD so you hear the definition. This is a main definition. PTSD is characterized by three main symptoms: re-experiencing the trauma through triggers or intrusive, distressing recollections of the event, flashbacks, maybe even nightmares. Another one, emotional numbness and avoidance of places, people, and activities that are reminders of the trauma. And also you might have difficulty sleeping or concentrating. You might be anxious, feel jumpy, easily irritated, or even depressed. So those are the symptoms that we all have to some degree because everyone has some degree of trauma, and we're addressing everyone's need to be relieved today. So this is a wellness workshop. We're hoping that you find some new tools for yourself. And the goal of our day is to help you with that by the information being offered by our specialists and people who have been there and want to help. So one of the most important things I think for me is breathing. So right now I'm holding my breath. So I note that for myself, when I'm anxious, I tend to hold my breath. So I want everybody to just realize you're breathing, right? Everyone's breathing. That's good. Now there's a special breath you can do that's a calming breath. And I'm going to just teach you that briefly. And we can do that together and bring us all into this room together. So if you breathe in, however length you want, and then breathe out long and slow through your mouth. It's really recommended breathe in count of 4 and breathe out count of 8, but that's a very long breath, so you can do whatever you want on that. And I've discovered that there's a really cool song that you can say to yourself that's the perfect song for this breath, and it's a statement or a song. So if you inhale, and as you exhale, you think, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. And then you inhale again. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. And if you do that, you're actually giving yourself some great information, and you're breathing at a calming breath rate. So let's try that together. And I'll say it, but you can think it. If you want to say it out loud, super. Inhale. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Inhale. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. And that's one of your new practices from today. So thank you all for helping me feel relaxed. I want to thank a few more people. Erlene Gleisner, Ellie Bruce are offering you snacks and drinks, and so is Erica. And just stand up if you want, if you're not too shy. Okay, or don't stand up. And Al Rosen and Andy Wright are on the cameras. They're going to be offering this vital information to the community on Willits TV. If you don't want to be filmed, just sit near the back of the room. Dave Knudsen is here on sound. Thank you, Dave. And Claudia Wenning has been a great production advisor, and she's a wellness coach. And my name is Annie Waters. I'm your main producer. So a lot of other Grangers and volunteers have helped bring this together. So I want to thank everyone for helping us to be here today. And of course, most of all, thanking the health practitioners who are going to start speaking now. And so I will introduce them. Here we go. Claudia is going to speak. Claudia, thank you. This is Claudia Wenning, fabulous health worker. She's a traditional naturopath, a holistic health coach, consultant, and an herbalist. She's a functional medicine certified health coach. She has a space in room 4 down at the end of the hall and offers sessions to help you rewrite your story and balance your energy, where there's also acupressure, energy balancing, and other organic modalities. Thank you, Claudia.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And thank yourselves for spending this afternoon with us, and primarily for yourselves. So I wanted to say a few things about what you have seen on the poster. This event is called Freedom from PTSD. Now, what Annie wanted to create here, and I really applaud you for that, is actually an event of bringing information to those who have friends or family who are suffering with PTSD. So we are not really offering therapy, but we're offering tools. And the tools can be used to actually not get PTSD. PTSD stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. It is a categorized disorder in all the medical categories. And there's a lot that falls under that. However, it is a disorder. And why we are presenting the tools here today is to offer ways to bring order back into your life. And I would like to introduce a little visual for you. Imagine you're sitting in a dark room. You know it's cluttered, but there's not enough light to reorganize, to put things where they need to be of service to you. However, if there are people who are coming in and helping you to open up the curtains and let the light into the room, we will see the clutter and the disorder, but now we will have the light in order to bring order in the disorder. And this is what that is about, that we can address and process overwhelm and bring things in places where they serve us and we are not victims of the disorder. So in order for me to provide something here, I'm going to be roaming around. I don't have a table, but as you know, there is room 4, which is down the hall to the left. If anyone thinks they need a little private space, come see me. That room is available for a bit of time out to take a deep breather with me or by yourself. And again, whenever things get a little too warm, just take a deep cooling breath. And thank you for giving us that song to breathe with. I was tempted to sing it out loud, but then I might have been the only one, so. Well, we can sing it later. Okay, room 4, if you need to want to be by yourself or process something that comes up. However, this is informational only. We really are not providing therapy. And we still are pretty sure there will be tremendous value that can be shared today. Thank you.
And Claudia's awesome. She's really this relaxed person that always reminds me to breathe just by seeing her. So our next speaker is Tracy Pilar. And Tracy is a survivor of trauma. And she's had many years of noticing, addressing, and healing her triggers. Tracy, tell us more about that.
Hi, so I noticed I was totally triggered today, feeling that I wasn't good enough to come and present myself. And thank you very much, community, for supporting me. Saying, you're fine, you're great. So here we are together to talk and explore our triggers in a safe way, noticing them all around us. You know, we can go as big as politics, we can go as small as our home, and everything leads back to one trauma or another of what it brings up for us. So I'm over there, my table says triggers on it, and let us explore, write down some stuff, and share at the end. Okay, thanks.
So, thank you for being here. Feels strange to me being so far away from you, though, so I'm not used to being way distant. I want to say just a little bit about me and the context that I bring. I'm a recovering person, as I think many of you are, from trauma. For me, it started when I was 5 years old, when my father took an overdose of sleeping pills and was hospitalized in Camarillo State Hospital in Southern California. I went to visit him for a year with my uncle because I didn't know why. I just knew my mother didn't want to go, and that I was somehow the guy that was supposed to be the family healer at 5 years old. And I think many of us have grown up with that difficult challenge to somehow deal with other people's trauma or stress that we many times have taken on. So like many people, I wanted to know what happened to my father and what had happened to me and what had happened to other people. And so when I grew up, I thought the best way to keep it from happening to me was to learn everything I could and to go to school and get a PhD and treat other people, and maybe that would keep it from happening to me. Well, it helped a lot of other people, but I realized that running away from my own memories, my own stories, if stories can influence us, as I know they do, the stories that we're afraid to tell ourselves, the stories that we hide from each other, the stories that we're not willing to share are the ones often that influence us the most strongly. So part of my journey is to tell parts of my story, and I do that through my books and through my writing, and just being willing to share at open conferences. As I said, I'm a psychotherapist. I treat people with problems. What I've come to see is that most of the problems that I see as a psychotherapist and that I think many people bring to offices when you get there to see practitioners of various kinds, many really good ones are here in the room, really have to do with trauma. The labels that we put on people, I got the label called bipolar disorder some years ago, which I think was somewhat accurate. I had severe mood swings, ups and downs. But the idea that it somehow was merely a brain disorder that could be treated with medications, I think missed a lot of the story, including the story of trauma that so many of us grew up with. I learned about a series of research studies that were called ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences Studies. And what they were able to show pretty dramatically over the last 25 or 30 years now that they've been doing them is that a large percentage of the population grew up in families that had some degree of trauma. Everything from some of the things that you saw in the film of sexual abuse, emotional abuse, but simple things that we don't think as trauma, like divorce, like growing up with a single parent and having a father who doesn't live with you, or mental health problems among a family member. So I've come to see that trauma really needs to be seen in a broader context, maybe even more broadly than the kind of trauma that we have come to understand as childhood trauma or later trauma with serious abuse. But I'd like to suggest that in some ways we all live in traumatic conditions, that we live in a world that is out of balance in many ways. And a little handout that I gave you, some of you have it on the table, there's some more at the back of the room. Just as an example of the out of balancedness is the number of people on the planet. We all live in, I think, a really lovely town, but the truth is that the planet keeps adding more people and a lot of other things that are not good for us. So in turn, I just looked this up before I came. There are 360,000 births a day on our planet. Now, we may not all be aware of that, but we feel it. There's an energy that happens when you have more people who need more things, who are doing, more in the world, and we feel the stress of that. So that's something that I think we all need to pay attention to. The other thing is, as I look out into the audience, I'm very aware that the vast majority of the people here are female. And this seems to be the case in many gatherings that I go to, including my Zumba class. But I think it represents a reality that a lot of the traumatic experiences that we have, men don't want to talk about them as a group. Some do. I'm here. I talk about them. Many of my friends do. But as a group, men, I think, hide trauma or pretend to or try to. And I think there are different ways in which males and females both experience trauma and some of the ways that we heal them. And that's part of what I'm going to talk about in my small group for whoever, stays the afternoon. And I encourage you to stay and get as much as you can. For those that are going to be here and aren't going to be here, I brought some resources that are available to you. You're going to hear some more later from some other presenters about energy healing and tapping. And I wrote a book that looks at 4 energy healing tools, and Annie mentioned them. I have books on the back table. And I think the thing that I would leave you with is an experiment that was done some time ago that was kind of a mind blower for me. And some scientists, with people's permission, they gave depressed men and women a cocktail that would block the effect of serotonin on the brain. So in other words, it would take people who were in recovery, who were healed from depression, and basically chemically alter their brain and block the response so that they now were not getting their normal serotonin, and they would basically get pushed back into depression. And what they found was that males and females responded very differently. They didn't expect this. They found that the males as a group didn't do anything. They didn't act sad. They didn't talk about their sadness. They just wanted to go to the bar and get a drink. The females as a group, not everybody, but as a group, broke into tears right after they took the chemical that blocked their serotonin. And the one woman talked about the death of her father. She immediately went into feelings of grief and pain. And I think there's a lot of us that express our pain and trauma in different ways. It doesn't always break down in terms of gender, but often it does. And part of the work that I've done over the years, the last 50 years that I've been working, is really to heal in new and interesting ways. And I think you're going to hear some more new and interesting ways here today. And I'm pleased to be part of this wonderful group and look forward to meeting some of you more later at the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Jed. That's awesome. Our next speaker is Joe Meist. And Joe comes all the way from Atascadero for us today. He's an Army veteran who has invented a wonderful device. It's called a temple massager. You want to come up, Joe? So his temple massager is a drug-free, non-invasive stress relief that's being proven to work for veterans and first responders. And so it's in a pilot study for headache and sleep at Stanford. Tell us more about what you're doing, Joe.
So thank you all for being here. I'm really grateful to be here. And so this is a temple massager. I designed it at the end of my Army career because I held a lot of stress in my jaw. And I would clench really bad, and it would ache. And so I'd walk around like this, going around, and I probably should be going like this. So I realized that when I'm holding my arms and hands up, I'm engaging my shoulder musculature in all my arms, and that's a lot more muscle than what's in your face, in your temporalis and your masseter muscle. So it's kind of a tool of efficiency, and then my arms are up here, and now I just have one hand, and I massage the cranium all the way up in the side of the head, down around the ear, and I put a little coconut oil or olive oil on the cheek, and then massager glides across the musculature, and so it's basically delivers cranial massage, acupressure, and aromatherapy. So in the handle, there's a little vial of lavender oil, and I put it on the pad, and that's facing up. And massage tips are made after try to mimic the fingertips. And then I made an acupressure point because there's 21 acupressure points on the side of the cranium. So, I was dealing with a lot of stress, and through the temple massager, I kind of helped myself with some PTS. I served with 2 guys that gave all, And one young man, I was 20 years old, he drowned in training in down Southern California in a base, and I couldn't save him. And I started beating myself up pretty good, you know, and like Jed was saying, you know, people don't talk about it. Guys, maybe it's the ego, I'm sure. And so I was beating myself up pretty good, and there's a lot of forces at work on me through developing this and patenting it, and I chose to give it away. And so I've donated over 3,000 devices around the world. It's been in North Africa, all through the Middle East, all of the United States. Walter Reed starts using it for PTS, anxiety, stress relief in general, facial muscle. So two things are going on. You can hit the facial musculature before you go to bed, during the day, whenever you want. It's pretty much for use whenever, wherever you're at. And the other thing that's going on that I've discovered through my work with Stanford School of Medicine and the Veterans Administration of Palo Alto is that, so I've worked with a guy named Mark Abramson. He founded the Stanford School of Medicine Mindfulness-Based Stress Clinic. And he explains to me, Joe, I think your product's triggering the relaxation response. Well, I'm an Army grunt, construction, geology background, and I was like, well, what's that? And he explained it to me, you know, this is stress response. So if you see a car accident or you're involved with violence or military, civilian, bad stuff is bad stuff is bad stuff. It doesn't matter. So that's, you know, when your brain reacts to stress, you jump adrenaline and cortisol. And the relaxation response, as explained to me, is like when you're getting a massage or the incidental contact from getting your hair cut where the comb kind of touches you or your hair tugging. And you can feel that little tingling in the back of your neck. And if you're mindful, it actually feels good. And you kind of feel good when you're getting a haircut, or you feel good when you're getting a massage, or somebody's rubbing their fingers up and down like this, perhaps. So that's triggering dopamine and endorphins. So he suggested to me that it might be helping with that. So that gets into PTS. So as Annie explained, through my donations, I received feedback from around the world over the course of 10 years. And I turned that over to VA Palo Alto. And so they're looking at it for traumatic brain injury, chronic tension headache relief, and as a sleep aid. Just kind of goes back into that awe feeling when you're getting a massage, if you will. So if you're thinking about awe, you're not thinking about much else. And so if you're dealing with vigilance, which is readiness and a service member, veteran-oriented thing, or if you're a civilian, it's awareness or being observant, sometimes it's hard to shake that. And so the military does a really good job at ramping you up and being vigilant. They don't do such a great job at teaching you how to deprogram that stuff. The VA is doing a much better job of that these days. So basically I start working with Stanford, and because of the fires, I called up Butte County Sheriff's Department, and they put me in touch with the Butte County Sheriff's Department Critical Incident Stress Management Team. And I donated 20 devices to the first responders up there, and it was for PTS. So, you know, PTS is a big, broad kind of an umbrella term. If you want to get right down to what it means, I've already heard it here today, we're talking about intrusive thoughts, we're talking about anxiety or that readiness or that awareness, vigilance, if you will, and also sleep disturbances. Maybe you can't get to sleep. Maybe you woke up and you can't get back to sleep. So we're getting surveys back from them, and those surveys are going to Stanford and the VA in Palo Alto. And I'm hoping that this comes through, but we're working with the Canadian Center of Addiction and Mental Health. And there's a Dr. Kidd up there I met with in December in Toronto. He wants to look at it for PTS or first responders as well. So this all shakes down to civilians. So you don't have to be a veteran, service member, or a first responder. Everybody deals with stress on a daily life, especially these days, it seems like. So people can use the device before you go to sleep. It focuses your thoughts because you're thinking about getting a massage on the side of your head. You're thinking about the lavender hitting your nose. You're thinking about the acupressure points being stimulated. And if you're thinking about that, you're not really thinking about maybe what your bad day was, or what happened last year, or what you problems may face in the future, tomorrow, or next week. It's very important to not let that stuff creep in your mind. And so if you use the device and calm down, and this is not like a panacea end-all for everybody. This is just another tool to work with what already exists out there. That's all this is. It's not taking place of human touch. It never will. It's not taking the place of any therapies. It's not taking the place of anything else. I do have reports of people telling me they're taking less PRN medications. So if you can take one less pill and you find benefit in the same way, well, then that's great. You're saving your stomach, liver, and kidneys from processing pharmaceuticals. So basically, it's really simple. You just open it and close it to add your pressure. This stuff's really tough. I made it out of ballistic nylon, so that's weapons technology. It's some handguards and pistol grip with M16s and M4 weapons. So I took weapons technology and I'm trying to make it into healing technology. And of course, yes, it is made in USA, by the way. So there's a set of tips on here that mimic 3 fingers. The aromatherapy, or the acupressure point is 1, obviously, makes sense. There's 21 acupressure points inside the head. And in the handle, you'll find a little baggie of aromatherapy oil and a little white pad, which you just place in here. And then this set of tips I tried to mimic after the thumb surface and the palm. So basically it's our hand, right? That's what the surfaces we use to treat ourselves or each other. So I just tried to make this an extension, natural extension of what how we treat each other and how we treat ourselves. And so I think that's kind of the long and the short of it. And thank you very much for all being here and for your attention. Yeah, so, okay, it's really simple. You know, what I tell people is, so there's people using this for migraine relief, and we're about to maybe start pilot studies in that. But right now, like for instance, Palo Alto VA is looking at this for tension headache relief. So I always tell people, start with a wide opening or a light touch. So that's barely touching my head right now. So I can adjust it how much I want it. So sometimes you might feel like this is already tense and stressed out, and you're on your way to getting a headache. A lot of us can feel the precursors of how we feel. You know, uh-oh, I might be getting a headache. Well, that's kind of a bad feeling. So I always tell people, open it up wide, and just basically you want to take your arms down. So if there's a pillow here, arm of a chair, a rolled up jacket or backpack, the point is you're resting your elbow. So you're disengaging all of this musculature. It's an enormous amount of musculature to be holding up your arms and hands. So, you know, basically you kind of adjust the pressure how you want it, and you just massage. And like I said, if you put a little coconut oil, olive oil, or even your favorite lotion, then you can really, it kind of is too sticky without the oil. But basically, I can tighten this up, and I can dig into the cheek musculature, which is right where I clench. And so I guess that's called TMD, or some people call it TMJ. So you just basically use it wherever you want, whenever you want. You adjust the pressure how you like it. And it's just it's manually operated. There's no vibration, there's no electricity. The VA and DOD are calling this a CAM therapy, complementary alternative medicine. So that's strictly defined as yoga, meditation, aromatherapy, acupressure, puncture, and massage. So this delivers 3 of those 5. Now in the civilian world out on the street, we call it holistics. The military and the VA just want to give it a different name. It's exactly the same stuff. So it's complementary alternative medicine. On the street, between you and I and friends, it's holistics.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks.
So if you want to know more about this and use some of these, Joe, did you bring a few people are going to use?
Yep.
Okay, so meet Joe at his table. Which table is yours, Joe? We'll show you all later, but he's going to have a round table, and you'll meet with him and spend 20 minutes and learn more how to use it. So that's an awesome device, and great to know they're testing it too. So we have a new guest going to come on. So this is Romina, who's a yoga and massage therapist. She works privately with clients and designs a yoga practice for each person's needs, and as well as she teaches public classes here. She's also a massage therapist specializing in Thai yoga massage. And so the Thai yoga works on mobilization of the energy in the joints, opens up the body, like someone doing yoga to you.
So, yes, yoga. Yoga is about self-regulation, and that's what how it helps for everyone. Like we were saying, everyone has trauma. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It could be a small thing. And when we're in yoga, holding the poses, We work a lot with the breath. Of course, the breath is the first tool that we have to regulate our nervous system. And then if we know about the fight or flight response and the relaxation response that Joe was talking about with the tool, the temple massager, so the fight or flight and freeze response. So some of us don't have the opportunity to express the fight or the flight. So we freeze, we don't do anything. We push down the emotion or whatever is arising. In yoga, movement, we bring movement in, and that helps shake it all off. Like the possum, right? Or like if we see a bear and we freeze, all that energy is running in our body. So moving our body, yoga brings in that element of movement, of course, with the breath, and helping regulate the nervous system. So if anyone wants to come here to do yoga, you can. You could also do it sitting, because this is very simple way of, we found a grounding our feet on the ground, or maybe feeling the hips on the chair. So if you can stand up or stay seated as you wish. Yeah. And begin to stand up tall or sit up straight. Good. And begin to notice energy coming from the feet. If you're sitting, please have your feet on the ground too, touching. Good. And start feeling like you're breathing through the feet. So we're going to start with the breath first. Good. And as you breathe in through the feet, bring the energy up into your heart. And then exhale, open the mouth. Good. Keep doing this a couple breaths. Breathing in the nose. You can open the mouth or you can exhale out the nose as you wish. And now keep feeling the feet, and we're going to lift the arms as we breathe. We feel that we're breathing through the feet, lifting the arms, raise up. Raise them all the way up. And then exhale and bring hands together in the heart, exhaling to the heart with a prayer. Good, and let's keep moving like this. And on the inhale, elongate and stretch. See how much you can stretch your body as you stay grounded, either through the feet, the hips, the legs. Stretch all the way up, trying to touch the heavens. And then exhale, bring the hands in prayer to the heart. Good, and we just have the summer solstice. Maybe we can do 108 sun salutations. Do you guys want to do that? I'm joking. But we can do it if you'd like. Good, exhale. One more breath. So we'll take another one of this. And then we're going to pause at the heart before we move a little more. So once you bring your hands to the heart, pause here. And if it's available to you, you can close your eyes. If you notice that calms you down, close your eyes. If you notice that triggers you or aggravates you, keep them open and tracking. And just think or connect to your prayer, to your intention at the heart. And now we're all going to chant a sound of Om together. So inhaling through the nose. If your eyes are closed, blink them open slowly. Release the hands. Good. And if you're standing, separate the feet. And if you're sitting, you can stay seated and do sort of a twist. We're going to move more dynamic. If you're sitting, however, you can do it a little slower and kind of go with the body. So lift up, inhale, lift your arms. Good. Exhale. Now bring them halfway, shoulder height. Good. And you can go wide or you can stay a little bit closer. It depends what you want to do. And then start twisting on your exhale. Inhale to the center, exhale to the side. Inhale to the center, exhale to the side. And this you can make as fast or as slow as you'd like. Let's say you're really, kind of getting into that fight or flight, maybe freeze response, maybe you can shake it off by twisting faster. Use your belly a little and pull it in so that you support your back. Good. Moving in a twist and shaking. It's called Ganesha Asana, sorry. And Ganesha is, in yoga, the Lord that removes the obstacles. So these are your trunks, and you're removing obstacles, bad energy, anything that you don't need anymore. Shake it all off, yeah. So go as fast or as slow as possible. If you feel grounded lifting your feet, you can do that too. Lifting the feet up, maybe you even lift the legs if you want to go crazy. And then let's stop in the center. Good. So let's just stop in the center. If you're sitting, you can separate your legs. If you're standing, you can separate them more. Good. And then lift up, inhale. As you exhale, you're going to circle your arms behind you. And maybe clasp your hands. And if this doesn't work for you and it hurts, you can just simply set your hands on your hips. Like this. All right. And then we're going to inhale. Take one more breath. Lift the chest open. See if you can bring that prana life force into the heart center. Lift it up. As you exhale, if you're standing, you may bend the knees, depending on your hamstrings, to fold and drape over the legs. If you're sitting, you're already in that position. And some of you might come with straight legs. If your hamstring allow, low back. Just move in a way that feels good for you. Yeah, bowing down and stretching. And again, keeping your eyes open if you need, tracking your breath into the body through the nose. Maybe you still feel the breath coming through the feet if you need to ground more. And expanding throughout the whole body. Release the head and notice the jaw. See if you can relax the jaw. Good. And then slowly we're going to come up. You can bend the knees to come up. Bring your hands to the thighs and roll it up like a cat, pressing up and stretching, rounding. Or as it's better for you to come up, roll it up. Good. And then step together. And do you guys want more? We can do a little more. One more? Yes. All right. So let's do a little chair pose. So this pose, a lot of grounding poses. If you're standing, of course, yoga could be done on the floor. I brought some mats today to experiment if you want to come to my table later. And you can do on your back. You can do it sitting on the floor or on a chair. We're going to work with a pose that you can do just standing or sitting, and it works the strength in the legs. So if you're sitting, you're going to come up to standing, and then we're going to sit down on the chair, if that's okay. Or, yeah, depends if you want to do it or not. But let's do it. Let's move. Inhale, lift your arms forward. Separate your feet hip-width distance. Good. And then as you exhale, you're going to suck your belly in and begin to bring the hips back like there's a chair. And some of you have a chair. If you're scared it's going to move, maybe put it against the wall. But we're going to come down and try to sit on the chair. Invisible chair, or maybe you have a chair there. Good. Now see if you can elongate the low back and lift the chest. And breathe. So this pose might be a little intense. And that's what yoga teaches us, is to be present with the sensations. Maybe the sensations are intense, but we stay with our breath. If we keep the eyes open, we can track in the room the colors and the people around. And maybe our thighs are burning, maybe our glutes are burning, our belly, our arms. Firm your muscles into the bone and feel your muscles activate. Good. Come down a little more and keep breathing. Keep breathing, being here and now. Good. Strong legs, strong core. Lift the chest a little. Good. And release. Relax. Are you guys breathing? Yeah. Yeah? For real, yeah. So that's what happens when we get triggered. We forget. We forget the breathing. We react instead of responding. So all these tools we have here today will help ground and center and be present. And that's what yoga does. So thank you for being here and now with me. Let's all close together. Inhale deeply. Stretch up and bring your hands in prayer to the heart. And again, keep your eyes open or closed as you need. And the hands come to the heart together in prayer and union. The hands uniting at the center, right at the center of the heart. We're going to close with the sound of Om and 3 Shantis. Shanti means peace. So inhale through the nose. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace. And namaste. Thank you.
So our next two speakers are a dynamic duo, and Jacqueline Morninglight and Leah Lucero. So Jacqueline is a community member who has used tapping or emotional freedom technique to navigate some difficult life challenges with great success, and will take an opportunity to share this tool with all of you. Leah Lucero is a certified EFT matrix re-imprinting practitioner, and that's tapping taken to even further and better use. A certified practitioner in pure bioenergy healing, and she has an office in Laytonville where she does emotional code and body code work. So thank you both for coming and showing us this. I'm really excited to learn this. Thank you.
Okay, we are here to share about emotional freedom technique or tapping, EFT. Leah is going to talk about emotional freedom technique matrix re-imprinting, which is kind of like EFT plus. I'm really excited to share this stuff. I've successfully used tapping in my life journey, and I'm really excited about sharing it with people. And I think it's a really useful tool that we can all access, and that working with a practitioner like Leah, and also Claudia uses tapping in some of her work. We don't need to put on ourselves the other stress of, oh, I've got to do this myself, and I can learn this, you know. It's okay to go and get some shepherding from someone. So EFT works by stimulating acupoints, which are acupressure points, basically, that go directly to our midbrain, and they're not mediated by our frontal or thinking brain, which means that it kind of bypasses cognitive therapy. Sometimes it's not so important to know everything about why something happened if it's not going to fix it. And so a little bit of history is that a therapist named Roger Callahan in 1980s was dealing with a client who had extreme water phobia. And he had been working with this patient for about a year, and there was kind of no movement. And he just kind of spontaneously, because he was looking into acupuncture points and understanding about those meridians, he just kind of started tapping on some points when she was working through her fear of water. And spontaneously at the end of that session, this person just got up and went to the side of the pool. They were at a pool. Went to the side of the pool and sat down and put her feet in the water. And it was like amazing that that had happened. And then he worked with a person named Gary Craig, who's kind of the birther of EFT, I guess. And he was an engineer, and he took all the logarithms and all of the information and simplified it and made it a repeatable technique. And then he formed emotional freedom technique and did some master trainings and trained 12, 20, 28 master trainers. And then they it just kind of spread and has a lot of practitioners who are doing it, some of who are trained and some of who have just picked it up and used it. Part of how it works is that people have mentioned cortisol and the flight thing, is that the amygdala is the part of our brain that responds to danger. And it's really important. We need that. We don't need to kind of numb that or take it away. It's a process that we need to survive in the world. When things are dangerous, we need to have a bunch of cortisol and adrenaline in our system so that we can respond. And when those things happen all the time or intensely, sometimes the switch gets stuck on or the switch gets hair triggered, so it's triggered by anything every time and you're just in that state. That's not a good match for the body. We don't need cortisol in our system all the time. So I'm always concerned with the idea of just learning to kind of mute it, like Jed said, going to the bar and having a drink. That's not really, that's taking away this tool that we need of our flight thing, and it's also not dealing with the broken switch. And tapping is a tool that I've found to be absolutely amazing. And what it does is it somehow, the tapping stimulates some things that go into that part of the brain that's storing these things and allows us to release them. And then with tapping, and particularly with the matrix re-imprinting, you can put some other information in there so that the system works, so that we're thriving, not just surviving. So I'm going to just take you through some basic, just to introduce you, some basic the tapping sequence. And at our table, we'll go through, we'll do some little introduction stuff, and then we'll just go through some sequences with people, and then we'll have questions and answers and comments. And when you come to our table, we're not going to do just react to you. We're going to actually do a session. But don't feel like you can't come in when we've already started, or you can't leave when you need to leave. We're here to help you, and part of that is you listening to what you need and doing what you need when you need to do it. And we also printed up this little sheet of resources and, what did I call it, references. There's books, there's a lot of things online that will take you through tapping sequences that have a lot of information for using it in a variety of ways. And I also have Leah's information down here if you want to work with a practitioner. I have my phone number if you want to call and ask me something. I'm just a person who uses lots of tools. I collect them. And then we've got this little thing that shows you the tapping points. And they're at our table and on the table in the back. So I want you, if you would like, to tap along. And the process is 4 steps. The first step is you choose a problem or an issue. It can be general or specific. It can be, I'm afraid. It can be, I'm afraid of singing on stage in front of people by myself. That would be a good one. And then you word that, whatever that issue or specific thing is that you're going to work on, you make it a phrase, like this fear of singing in front of people. I'm going to use that one. You can make your own right now. Just hold it. Just insert it when we're doing this. Then you give it a level from 0 to 10. 0 being not really bothering you at all, 10 being just paralyzing you, the deer in the headlights thing. And you write that down. It's usually good to write that down because we kind of don't remember. And if we don't remember to do that rating, a lot of times we don't really notice the movement because we feel better now and we don't remember that it was a 10. And then the third thing is that you do, this is starting the tapping stuff. You do a karate chop, which is one of the movements. Yeah. And this can be done with 4 fingers or these 2 fingers. You can just you can do it on one side or both sides. It's just what your body is telling you you need. It doesn't need to be strong. It's just a little tapping. It's a vibration. It's kind of an electronic thing. You could even actually not even touch it. And then you do your statement, this fear of getting up, even though, this would go, even though I'm afraid of singing in front of people, I completely love and accept myself. And one thing I would just add is that doing this, when I first was doing this work, I've probably been doing it for about 6 or 7 years, it was really hard to remember that and really hard to say, I completely love and accept myself. Even though I'm a screw up, I completely love and accept myself. Now, when I do that, I just noticed this the other day, I completely love and accept myself is like, well, of course. Even though there's this thing, I completely love and accept myself. It's that kind of change that happens. It's like systematic that things in my life have changed. So we do this setup. So even though I'm afraid of singing in front of people, I completely love and accept myself. And then you do that about 3 or 4 times. You can do it on one side, you can do it, you can alternate. I like to do that, be balanced. Oh, yes, I forgot that. You could do this too. So anyway, you're just stimulating that point in the whole system of meridians. And then you would go through a sequence. And I'll just do this and say the thing, and you can do it with me and take whatever your issue is, even though all that stuff helps. And that was how we began today. Take a deep breath before you start. Even though I have this fear, between your eyes, where your eyebrow and your nose would meet, even though I have this fear of singing in front of people by myself, and then, you want to say that?
Oh, I'm just doing the,
okay.
showing them the points.
Oh, yeah, good. Side of your eye, and it's on that bone. I really think I'm going to just mess up, and then everybody will know. On the bottom of the eye, again on the bone, just lightly. I'm really afraid that everybody will know that I messed up. On the top of the lip under the nose, that's like here. And then on the bottom of the lip, on the chin, kind of in that indentation. Yeah. I'm really afraid that I'm going to mess up.
And this is just off the
Collarbone, yeah, and it doesn't have to be both of them. Yeah. And then on this point, which is right under the arm, right where the bra would be for a woman, they say a hand for a man from under the arm. Yes, and you can do both of them. And this is my favorite one. Even though I'm afraid to, on the top of your head, you can just do 1 or 2. Even though I'm afraid to get up in front of people and do something like this because I look like a monkey, I still completely love and accept myself. And then you can go on to, usually about 2 or 3 at least when you do a session. And then it sometimes can lighten up, and at the end you can take it to, I'm open to the possibility that I can do this. I'm open to the possibility that this will change. And I've done some where it just spontaneousally actually did change. Oh. Right, a big breath again. And then you go with that. And so then you would check your number. How is that, what's the level of that emotion right now?
What was your number when you started, and what is it now?
Yeah, and that's
You know,
that's
and
a
see
good.
if you've had a change.
Okay, so Leah's going to speak a little bit about
Matrix reimprinting?
Yeah.
Matrix reimprinting is kind of the high rise of EFT. It wouldn't have happened without EFT. So it is another tapping modality, and it is getting in and working with the inner child, the things that were damaged. And so Carl Dawson from the UK started this technique. He's one of Gary Craig's, one of the 28 masters that he trained is Carl. Carl come up with matrix reimprinting. Matrix is just covering just everything around us, just being part of the soup, so to speak. When our nervous system gets overwhelmed and we are upset or overexcited and we can't process and release emotions as they occur, they get stored in our bodies. And the traumatic events we experience are programmed into our subconscious and are running live in the background. That's why PTSD, that's why we always get triggered. And sometimes we don't even know why we're getting triggered, but it could be something that happened, a big trauma, a little trauma. We just get triggered. So with matrix reimprinting, we go in and we work with the younger version of ourselves whenever that trauma happened, at whatever age. It could have been last week, it could have been a year old, it could have been before that. And so we tap our way, we follow the energy, and we tap in there, and we come across what we call echoes, energetic conscious holograms of a younger version of self, and we work with those in the matrix. So it's EFT on a deeper level. And so when you get in there and work with them, it sounds really silly, but people that you work with when you're doing these echoes, they actually see their younger self. They can say, I'm 3 years old, I know what I'm wearing, I can tell you what I look like and everything. And so they start communicating energetically with that echo because their needs weren't met, and finding out what that echo needs and taking care of it at that level. And then there's a rewrite at the end. Once you get all of that settled, then you go back in and you bring this whole energy through your body and you rewrite it. So that's the re-imprint. Because at the time of the trauma, there were a whole array of choices that could have been made, or different things that could have happened. So you're not denying the memory, you're not denying what happened, but you're tapping into a different outcome for it. And it changes the physiology in your body. It changes, people are just, it's amazing what it does, how much it changes. What else do I need to say?
Is it done by yourself with like the EFT?
You can do it by yourself, yes. Usually it's a little more intense. So when you're first learning it, you usually use a practitioner once or twice maybe, and then you can totally do it. It's a self-healing technique. So it's really good. It's like EFT. I started with EFT. My daughter had cancer. One of my daughters had cancer a few years ago, about 7 years ago. And if it wasn't for EFT, and I was also doing Matrix, and if it wasn't for EFT and Matrix, I don't think we could have survived it. The two modalities brought us through. She's thriving, she's fine, and so. But anyway, tapping got us there. In one of my trainings, I was in a EFT training, and they hooked somebody up to the brain stuff. Yeah, they just hooked somebody up that talked about how stressed they were, and they were like this up there and sitting on the stage, and they were just going like crazy, and the chart was just going like this, and then they started tapping. I'm just going to release this and let it go. I'm going to release it and let it go. And it took about 3 minutes, and the brain waves it was just mind-boggling. The brain, they just settled out, and so yeah. It's good stuff.
Good tool.
Really good, really, really good stuff. And your healing journey is sacred to you. Your story is unique. You and only you know how you feel, and more importantly, how you want to feel. Your healing journey is sacred to you. Your story is unique. You and only you really know how you want to feel. Thank you.
Our next presenter is Erin Holzhauer of the Seabiscuit Therapeutic Riding Center. And I'm really excited that Erin came up to see us today. She did not bring a horse. I'm a little disappointed. We could have had a horse. I think that would be the first horse in this hall. I'm not sure. But she's going to talk about how the skill of horsemanship can help individuals with PTSD develop skills as well as relationships to help with their daily life. Thank you, Erin, for coming and talking to us.
Thank you so much for having me here today. So a little bit of a background on me. My name's Erin Holzhauer, and I have had the privilege of growing up with horses in my life, and I know that that's something that I'm very lucky to have been able to have. And at the age of 11, I was able to help start a therapeutic riding program, and that was originally Ridgewood Trail Riders Association and or Mendocino County 4-H, and it has evolved over the years, and now we're a Seabiscuit Therapeutic Riding Center, and we're serving a lot of individuals in the county with all sorts of needs. So whether it's physical, emotional, or developmental, horses have an amazing way of reaching us. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that and who the horses are in our program, and then invite you to, at some point, contact me and come check out our program as well. And we have some big changes happening. We're in the middle of getting a covered arena, so we will be able to really provide these services year-round without weather concerns. So just a quick show of hands, how many of you have seen on Facebook or any sort of social media therapeutic riding centers working with veterans or individuals that have trauma? Just raise your hand. Okay, a lot. So a lot of you are familiar with maybe equine facilitated psychotherapy or equine assisted activities, and I want to talk about the two, how they're different. So first, equine facilitated psychotherapy is working with a mental health practitioner, and you're doing a counseling session with them and the horses. And so it's a wonderful opportunity of working with equines and working on self-awareness and doing a counseling session, and you're using the horse as a tool to help work through that. In our county, there is one practitioner that I'm aware of, that's Esther Siegel, and she's an MFT, and so she does that, and so if that's something you're interested in, that would be a wonderful contact for that. And as far as equine assisted activities, so for the last 10 years I am a certified instructor with PATH International, which is the Professional Association of Therapeutic Horsemanship. And basically what my credentialing is, what I have learned through this organization is how to use horses to help individuals with their daily life. And I'm aware of individuals and different needs and how to use the horse as an effective tool to have them work on those skills. And so we do a lot of skill building. So the cool thing about horses is their movement is most similar to ours when we're sitting on them. So we get full rotation of our hips, so that we get this wonderful passive movement when we're working with them. And so that is an excellent tool for riding. We get a lot of core building, so physically they're really great for us, but emotionally they are such an incredible, not only friend, but they're incredible teachers. So when we're working with horses, horses are experts in nonverbal communication. So in a herd, a horse has to be so aware of everybody that's in that herd. Maybe there's 50 horses, but they have to be aware of where the head horse is that's looking out for any dangers or concerns that might be in the area. So they're having to worry about internal and external factors. So they have to worry about their environment, if there's a mountain lion coming, if there's a person coming that they should be aware of, or if the horse next to them is having a bad day and is giving them the eye and telling them, hey, I don't want you in my space right now, because if they don't get out of the way, they might get kicked. And so they have to be super aware of the emotions that are surrounding them. And that's a powerful tool, because whether we realize it or not, they are constantly talking to us. They're constantly telling us not only how they're feeling, but they're also telling us how we're feeling. They're picking up on our body language and the way we're approaching them, and they're reacting to it. My job as an instructor is to be a mirror, and so is theirs. So when I'm doing a session, I'm verbalizing to my clients what's going on with the horse, how they're reacting, what I'm seeing when they're riding, how I'm observing the interaction, what the horse is telling me. But the horse is doing the same thing. So I'm able to verbalize it, but the horses, while we're working with them, they're letting us know if someone's coming up to them too aggressively, because maybe what they're doing is they're backing away a little bit. They're giving their personal space because there's a lot of energy coming to them. They'll also let us know if the person that's working with them is pretty passive. So because horses in the wild, in order to survive, need to have a leader, if that person who's supposed to be their leader isn't leading them, then they are going to make some decisions in that situation, and their decision is probably going to be to go find the grass that is closest to them and take everybody for a walk over there. So horses are really good at, kind of making that decision to either follow the leader if we're giving all the correct cues to do so, or to be the leader to keep everybody safe. So they're really great that way. And then there's other factors too. So those are kind of big examples, but in our program we have 5 horses that are working with us. We lovingly refer to them as our equine therapists because they're really in tune. They do a lot of work. They do all the work, really. And they're really good at picking up on how we're feeling. So if we're having a rough day, the horses are really good at being gentle with us. I've had experiences where we have had people come out with major trauma, and we had a woman that came out that had lost her child, and she came and visited with our mini donkey Muffin. She had been having a rough time, and he walked up to her and he wrapped his neck around her. And he knew that that's what she needed at the time. And he just held her for 5 minutes until she disconnected and moved away. And so, which is such a powerful thing. So they're just so, very aware of us. And there's so many different areas of equine assisted activities that I could go into, but those are just some examples. And I would encourage anybody that wants to come out. We have incredible horses that all have different skills that are really wonderful, and that work with our program. And I'd encourage you to come out and visit us. But also, you could check us out on Facebook, and you have some videos, so you can kind of get an idea of the services that are provided through us or organizations like us. So quickly, if there is anybody that would benefit from our services, anybody that is coming to our program for trauma-related things are usually getting referred by a mental health professional, a doctor, and so they're already getting care, addressing those issues, but then also they can come to us and, and work on this, building on those tools that they're working on. And we we do charge for our services, but we always provide scholarships for those that need them. So if anybody ever needed to come out and participate in a program like this, it's absolutely for free. And so, and we can arrange those things. And visiting is free as well. We'll just arrange it. Okay.
So Erin won't have a table, but make sure you get her information. Did you bring those? She has those brochures, so put them at the back maybe as you leave, Erin, on that back table. Get those brochures. I want to go out and get over my fear of horses. So that eye thing, want to get friendly. So just another thing about the horses and the animals and pets. We didn't really talk about dogs and cats, but many of you know how wonderful it is to have your canine friend or your cat there for you. So we're not going to spend time on that, but let's just acknowledge that it is so. And there's a movie called Ground Operations we showed here, and it's about veterans and the ways that veterans have found incredible help and health in their lives through gardening and farming and working with horses. It's really astounding. The movie's available pretty easily, Ground Operations. and very inspiring film about how you can heal yourself with the soil and with horses very specifically. So thank you for that, Erin. So our next speaker is Antoinette Asensio, and Antoinette is a grief specialist, and she's bringing in her Native American culture for her wellness approach in her work, and today she's going to explain and tell us more about the kind of work she does. So thank you, Antoinette. Thanks for coming today.
I'm a little shorter than everyone else. So Kishia, Antoinette Asensio. My name is Antoinette Asensio. And what I do as a grief specialist is I help survivors of homicide. That includes suicide as well. And I'm on that path because of my own trauma and my own losses in my life. Often, as was brought out by someone earlier, our traumas is what motivates us and where we develop our passions. And so that's what I have done. We do a lot of, or when I say we, my team, we do a lot of also helping you through traumas. The traumas aren't always death. And I think that traumas in life can be things that hit your heart and your emotions in a way that touches you, and that's trauma. So we deal with helping in all types of traumas, not just being a survivor of someone that you've lost. Today we're just going to, what do you call that? Help you to remember that you're worthy and what your qualities are that are important that you remember about yourself, and how self-care is very important in everything that you do and is really important on your wellness path and your wellness journey. So I hope that you guys come and join this afternoon in our group. Just going to be short and sweet. So, Gadi. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and do 2 groups today. Yeah. Okay, cool.
So our next speaker is Maureen Smith, and she's an RN and a BSN, a registered nurse since 2005 with an extensive and varied clinical nursing career. She believes cannabis medicine will bring the positive change needed in Western medicine and its over-dependence on big pharma. Maureen is a member of the American Cannabis Nurses Association and is certified by the Medical Cannabis Institute Global. So Maureen, you want to come and share what you know with us. Thank you.
These are despairing times. Last year, Americans reported feeling stress and anger at the highest levels in a decade, according to a New York Times poll. This has coincided with a rise in the U.S. mortality rate caused by opioid use, alcohol use, and suicide. CNN medical correspondent Sanjay Gupta investigates these deaths of despair and the abrupt drop in life expectancy in a current Netflix film, One Nation Under Stress. Ultimately, he believes these premature deaths are a reflection of the toxic, pervasive stress in America. When chronic stress turns into physical and/or emotional pain, Gupta explains, people have the desire in some ways to medicate it away, even to the point it could be dangerous and it could end their life. This is why they're called deaths of despair. Today I offer an alternative to despair, and the prescription for it is inside us. I will teach you that central to the mental and physical health and well-being of every human and each of our four-legged creatures, too, is the endocannabinoid system, the ECS, one of the body's largest neurotransmitter networks, constantly working to keep us mentally and physically balanced. The ECS is a new scientific discovery, yet multitudes have already tapped into its ability to calm the central nervous system and repair cell damage. Still skeptical? In the next 10 minutes, you will learn more about CBD than most. So listen carefully. Annette and Robbie are here from Valley Bro Hemp Co., and they sell small batch hemp-derived CBD products, and they can answer all your product-related questions. So let's begin. What do I mean when I say endocannabinoid? We have endocannabinoid molecules inside us. In addition to other tasks, these molecules soothe pain and ease anxiety. There are two major endocannabinoids, anandamide and 2-AG. It may be useful to think of anandamide as an internal THC, whereas 2-AG acts more like CBD in the body. Endocannabinoids contribute to feelings of well-being. For example, we now know that runner's high does not come from endorphins. It comes from a flood of endocannabinoids. The same boost of endocannabinoids occur during highly focused states, such as when you're playing music, surfing, or painting, or any other activity that makes time flow. Our endocannabinoids are versatile, hardworking chemicals. Phytocannabinoids, and a word about receptors. Phytocannabinoids are biological compounds found in the trichomes of the cannabis plant. The body uses phytocannabinoids in the same exact way it uses our own naturally produced endocannabinoids. Yet, chemicals such as these will only create a biological action if they find a receptor to activate. For example, at the CB1 receptor in the brain, THC alters perception and mood. CBD does not have the same affinity for the CB1 receptor cell like THC, which is why CBD will never be an intoxicant. CBD has a greater impact on the CB2 receptor cells, found in every immune cell wall in our body. This is how CBD corrects immune system imbalances. The CB2 receptors are also densely expressed in our guts, and this is how CBD attacks the inflammation that causes irritable bowel. CBD alone has more than 65 receptors it can target. When you grasp how many ways CBD molecules can get into a cell in order to restore our bodies to balance, you can deeply understand how it can be several medications in one. So during the wildfires, thankfully, you experienced a fight or flight response. Fight or flight is a survival mechanism. It's hardwired into our primitive animal brains over 3 million years ago. The acute stress of fight or flight is a behavioral driver and very well may have saved your life. I will explain how this differs from the chronic stress of PTSD because that's detrimental to mind, body, and spirit. So when you experience a fight or flight response, this reaction floods the body with potent stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, epinephrine, like shock to the heart, right? As a result, we spring into action, either to slay a tiger or to run from one. Fight or flight does this shock, so it releases a surge of blood to the large muscles in order to bolt. It forces the liver to give up all its glucose that it had stored for energy, and it clamps down on the colon so you don't poop. This happens in the moment we perceive our survival is under threat. It's instinctual. It's hard on the body when acute stress turns chronic. This type of anxiety causes a slew of health issues, from digestive problems, minor aches and insomnia, to pain. It's been linked to diabetes and an increased risk for heart attack, especially for us ladies. A Brazilian study using animal models indicates that CBD works on anxiety and stress because it blocks those potent stress hormones from entering the cell through the serotonin receptors. CBD's biological action, therefore, cancels out the stress reaction. So another way CBD helps with stress and anxiety also occurs at the serotonin receptors. When CBD activates the serotonin receptors, it mimics serotonin inside the cell. And this provides more balanced moods and more control over how irritable you actually want to be. In addition, regulated serotonin levels improve memory, digestion, and appetite. The fact that CBD mimics serotonin in the body means that it has the potential to improve mood, perception, and quality of life. This is undoubtedly added to CBD's mythological status as a cure-all, snake oil even. Think about it though. Improving the quality of a person's life typically lessens feelings of anxiety, which leads to more restorative sleep patterns and less negativity during the day, which leads to less depression, which improves mood, which increases motivation, that causes us to seek out behaviors that help improve our quality of life. I call this an upward spiral. Fight or flight was never meant to be a chronic condition. If you are experiencing acute fight or flight responses to the typical everyday stressors, supplement the CBD may help settle that down for you. Going into the cave. Here's something you may not know about feeling low. Going into the cave after a fight or flight response was activated reestablished depleted energy stores. Our ancestors used this time to ward off illness or infection. It aided our survival as a species. In modern times, depression seems more like a chronic condition than a recovery state. CBD helps with the blues by taming stress and anxiety, so downtime becomes more like the healing mechanism it was meant to be. But here's a more scientific discovery that shows how it helps with depression. It focuses on the hippocampus, a part of the brain that regulates emotions. Unfortunately, chronic depression reduces the number of brain cells in this vital area. The new area of depression study indicates that taking CBD helps the endocannabinoids in the hippocampus by using the molecules as building blocks for new brain cell growth. This is called neurogenesis. The hippocampus sorts our fear-based memories. It adds context to our trauma memories. And these become the triggers that Tracy was talking about, that recall too many fears. If the hippocampus has gone rogue, it's re-experiencing the trauma memories too often. But new brain cells carry the potential for overcoming fear because they don't hold the imprint of the trauma memory. This new area of study indicates that taking CBD helps the endocannabinoids in the hippocampus by using them as building blocks. I think I just said that. So, in the hippocampus, the endocannabinoids in CBD play another important role. This is my last point. In our brain health, by protecting neurons from injury and cell death, by stopping waves of chemical excitation that occur during a traumatic event or head trauma. In fact, CBD is so good at neuroprotection, since 2003, the US government holds a patent for it. The cannabinoids CBD are found to have particular application as neuroprotectants. For example, in limiting neurological damage following ischemic insults, such as stroke trauma, or the treatment of neurodegenerative diseases, such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and dementia, claim the inventors of the patent, which is the US government. Lastly, when cells are already damaged from stress and trauma, endocannabinoids prune them in an act called neuroplasticity. This describes our brain's ability to adapt and heal. Neuroplastic brains have better connections between brain cells. This all improves synaptic firing, which is how brain cells communicate. And this keeps our brains fully functioning well into our elder years. CBD promotes neurogenesis, neuroprotection, and neuroplasticity, especially in the hippocampus, the area most affected by depression. My theory about hippocampal neurogenesis, during these times when new brain cells are developing, Hope can tiptoe in and carefully imprint healthier choices into our brains, like voluntary exercise, thinking optimistically, or eating healthier. Indeed, depression studies do show recovery is more lasting when combined with holistic lifestyle changes, a self-care program, and brain-focused medications, like CBD. In preclinical animal trials and a handful of clinical trials, supplemental CBD seems to work both symptomatically by changing how we respond to stress, but also on a deeper, dare I say, more curative level, due to its capacity to get at the root cause, where brain dysregulation lies. Thank you.
So that's Maureen, and you have a practice in Fort Bragg? So she has a practice in Fort Bragg, and she teaches over there too. Spend some time with her today if you want to learn more about how cannabis and CBD can help you. The next up is Diane Smalley, and Diane is a local acupuncturist, and she has been helping people awaken their inner healer and find peace since 1985. Thank you, Diane. Come and tell us more about that. Or are you going to talk about food and nutrition? Okay.
Wow, that was an education. Thank you, Maureen. And you gave me a little cue for what I'm going to talk about, which is using food as medicine and having a good, balanced meals. So most of what I was planning to say has been said, and so I'll just say it in my own words, I guess. So PTSD is a label, and it's a syndrome that deserves a label. And when I think about that, I think about sort of the old days with very strict conservative what I call Western medicine. It's based on dissection, and there's a tendency to look for one cause and one treatment, and in about 15 minutes. And what I really enjoy about practicing acupuncture and herbal medicine is that I get to spend lots of time with people and really hear all of your story, and it evolves, and you get to express all the things that you need to express. And I listen very carefully, and the body gets very quiet during acupuncture. Acupuncture does two main things. It helps with the circulation. Circulation is paramount to health. When things are moving, then they're healing. They can heal. And also it's extremely relaxing, which seems counterintuitive, but it's very relaxing. And when we're in that relaxed mode, we're naturally in a healing state. In fact, I rename a lot of things because, talking about the autonomic nerve system start to lose people. I call it the reflex nerve system. It's all the automatic things that go on in the body. And that system, that reflex nerve system has two phases, like what Maureen was just talking about. And I call it alarm and peace. And we're either in one or the other. And there's actually alarm nerves and peace nerves. So if we activate those peace nerves, we can really be in a natural healing state. And also, in holistic medicine, we're personalizing the medicine. We're not just one-size-fits-all treatments. In fact, just recently, I heard a speaker say that, my experience is she was studying mostly benzodiazepines and things like that, anti-anxiety medications, and she said, drugs end up giving you the symptoms that you took them for. Drugs end up giving you the symptoms that you took them for. Drugs end up giving you the symptoms that you took them for. And I started thinking about that. In fact, just the other day, I was looking up, someone said they had been on a blood pressure medicine, so I went to drugs.com, which is a great resource. You just type in any drug in there. And I looked up the side effects, and it has every side effect in the book, from baldness to foot fungus. I mean, and the reason that happens is because it's a single chemical. If you take a blueberry and look and list all the little chemicals and bits that are in there, it would fill a billboard. And so that's why we want to use food as medicine. And it even extends out to things like antimicrobials, how we're having these drug-resistant bacteria. The bacteria can figure out a single element very quickly, but it can't figure out an herb very well because there's so many constituents to it. And I have to say that we've really been kind of snookered by the food industry and the pharmaceutical industry to do things like eat sugar. I mean, I would just like to see the grocery store not have any of that stuff on the shelves. Why do we need 7-Up? I mean, you know, it's just, it's beyond me. You know, and so we're lucky in this town. We have Mariposa Market and the Farmers Market and all the great farms here, so that we have access to things like A2 milk. Do y'all know about A2 milk? It tastes great for one thing, and I won't go into it right now, but it's a genetic form of milk that you can breed cattle to make A2 milk, and it's not irritating. Most milk is A1, and that A1 is irritating. So little things like that are really important to know. In fact, I really, in my practice, I really go a long way to teaching people things that they can do on their own. Because really, you know, we're with ourselves most of the time, so we need to be our own physicians. And especially now, as medicine is changing, hopefully, we need to be more responsible about taking care of ourselves. And that's the good news, is that, like Maureen was just talking about, we know so much more about the brain than we did 30 years ago when I was first starting out in the dark ages. And you know, we know that trauma wires the brain and that we can rewire the brain. And we know so much more about all the chemicals that are involved. And so what I brought today, I call it Farm-a-Seed instead of pharmacy. And it's all the foods and herbs that help us to stay healthy. And what I brought today was mostly some work based on the work of Julia Ross. It's a questionnaire to find out what areas of the nerve, what nerve transmitters might be low for you. And it covers 5 areas: the serotonin, the catecholamines, the adrenal level, which deals with GABA, the endorphins, and the blood sugar. And there are remedies for all of those, because one of the best ways to stay grounded and have a stable mental level is with balanced meals. It's extremely important. We are what we eat. And that I have created a children's book, because I figure if we learn these things when we're young, we'll have it with us all our life. And it's called Seeds of Wellness, and in there I have 10 self-care seeds, and one of the key self-care seeds is eating food as medicine, using food as medicine. And when we combine eating properly with the CBD and with the EFT and building our nest and learning how to calm ourselves down from those triggers, then we really have some good gold there. And that's the whole idea of holistic medicine, is we approach it from as many different areas as possible, and that increases our chances of healing much, much more. So look forward to speaking with you later.
So our last speaker is Mike Adams, who's a farmer and a gardener. He likes his feet in the dirt. Richard calls him our local hobbit. And he feels his therapy is being in the garden, and I so appreciate him. He gives away a lot of food. Mike is so generous, and he just gives away food. He gardens for happiness. Can you tell us more, Mike, how you, and he's a happy person. What is that, how does that work for you? Come on, tell us.
Hi, everybody. Cool. Thanks for being here. Thanks, Annie, for putting this together, and thanks to the Grange for having a great space available for the community. It's really great listening to different people share different healing things, some of which I implement a little and some of which I may implement more in the future. Yeah, so I think I want to speak just to the fact I like to grow food. I like to eat food. Who doesn't like to eat food? I think we all do. And I really like eating food that's fresh, and the freshest food is the food that I cultivate and harvest myself, because it doesn't leave the garden, it just goes right into me. And I think I share this experience. I believe that my happiness is helped significantly by my gardening, specifically by my hands touching the soil, by my feet touching the soil. I ebb and flow, like I have my highs and my lows, and I notice that when I'm leaving the garden, I'm usually on a high. Not from smoking cannabis, which I also enjoy, but I think that there's a connection to the earth and to the natural world that a lot of us have lost, and we began losing it maybe a long time ago when we first put shoes on our feet, and then we started living inside boxes. And there's there's a disconnect to the weather, the moon, the ground around us. And it clicked to me one day when I was walking, not on dirt, but on the ground, like in a city or something, and I was barefoot, and somebody said, "What are you walking barefoot for? You might step on something gross." And I said, maybe we shouldn't put gross things on the ground. And it realized, like, there's not many, some of us may, but there's not many of us that do connect in that way. And for me, and now I hear, there's people actually paying and going to therapists and saying, and they're being informed that they should like earth or ground, and this would make better money than cultivating food. They could come and sit at the farm and put their feet in the dirt, and that'd be great. And I could charge. I don't know. I'm not charging. But let's see. So I have a round table here, but I actually brought some dirt, and I have it in buckets and bins outside. And I brought some benches out there, and it's in the shade, and it's really nice. So I recommend to anybody who wants to take a few moments, take off their shoes and breathe in some fresh air, that if you go out this door and down the slope, that you'll find some nice seats and different varieties of dirt that you can touch, put your feet in, sit silently if you wish, or talk to somebody who might be sitting next to you. And experience that for a few minutes. I actually think it's good to do it every day. And I bet you're not far from dirt at home. And just hearing this combination of things like, yoga, maybe in the garden, and, helps, these things that can help us eliminate the triggers that cause us to go into a reactive state. Using CBD or cannabis in general. I have this belief that the more cannabis we consume, be it the juice of the plant or the hemp seed or a CBD extract or smoking, benefits the body in a lot of ways. I'm learning more about tapping. And food is our medicine. If we eat well and take care of our body, it's unlikely we need much more, medicines. So thank you for being here. I'll be outside a little bit, but I also want to talk to some of the other people. So the dirt's available, and I appreciate you all for being here. Thank you.
So that concludes our speakers. You've heard from everyone. Many people have tables they're going to be at around the room, and we're going to take a 10-minute break. I hope you come back and find your way into a deeper conversation with someone whose wisdom really inspired you.